Hello there and welcome to this short tutorial on how to make stamps. It's really easy. The only thing you need is plaster, water and something to use as a mold. You can make markers marks, stamps or even sprig molds just by using this method. First of all, you need to scoop up enough plaster so you get an island that stays on top of the water for at least 30 seconds. It's always, of course, good to read the instructions on the package, but most plasters work the same way. When you get this island that will not sink, you have enough plaster. Mix it well, and remember, the reaction time is different with different plasters. When it's all mixed up, I pour it into my molds. I just had 15 pieces of chocolate, so I thought this box would be perfect for this. You can of course use many other things as molds, like for instance these two film boxes that I have. You need to get the air away, so by hitting it to my table, the air bubbles comes to the surface. Now the reaction time for this plaster is about 30 minutes, and I can check with the leftovers, and as you see, this is hard enough. So I remove the stamps so that I can finish the edges a little bit. They are still wet, but they hold the shape. Just by using a small knife, I take away the extra material that I don't want. And after that, it's time to leave them to really dry. It took about 5 days before they were dry, and you can actually feel it. When they turn room temperature, you know that the moist is gone. It's now time for me to make them really smooth. So I use this sanding paper. It's fine grit and it's actually a net. It's really good for this. But remember, you need a breathing mask, or even better, go outside when you do this, because you don't want to breathe in the plaster dust. When they are all smooth, it's time to start designing the stamps. I need a needle, a pencil, chopsticks, a match, and some blue tack. You can of course use other things too, but this is what I prefer. I make the chopstick pointy, and then I start designing my first stamp. I start with a pencil and design my first stamp. After that, I use my needle to get an imprint in the plaster. Be careful when you do this, take your time. And after that, I use a match or my chopstick. I burn the match so I get it pointed too. I go many times over my stamp and try to make the imprint as even as possible. And with the blue tack, I clean it every now and then. This way I can see how much I have to dig deeper, or if I did something wrong. One thing that you need to remember is that if you use these plaster stamps straight away, you will get a mirror image of the thing you drawn. So if you make a letter or a name, for instance, you need to take an imprint and use the imprint as the stamp. And I will show you that just in a few seconds. So I roll out a piece of slab and then it's time to test my new stamps. I made a few ornaments, and with them it's no problem if it's a mirror image. All the letters and names, that's a different story. I also made my initials, and I pushed that stamp also into the clay, but then I have to cut it out and use the piece of clay as a stamp when it's dry and burnt. So this small square is now the stamp. If you want to make a more beautiful stamp that doesn't turn out with mirror images, you can do it this way. I just cut a piece of clay and then I press it against my plaster mold. This way I get an imprint, and then I can use the clay as my new stamp. So I burn it in a kiln when it's dry, and then it's perfect to use many, many times. And I can take a new imprint if I lose my clay stamp. So that's really good. It's now time to do the finishing adjustments and let it dry. So this is my new initial stamp. I'm not sponsored by any chocolate factory, but I think that this box was perfect for my stamps. Thanks for watching.